Ow.
Alright, today we're going to do a brake job on a Cruze, 2011 Chevy Cruze. There's no fun stuff on the Camaro this time, just hasn't worked out, but I do need to do brakes on the car, and it's a nice day out. So everything you need to do front brakes on a Cruze, and pretty much any car for that matter, but for the Cruze in general, obviously you need a jack, you need jack stand, you need tire iron, you'll need some metric sockets, a 10, a 15, and possibly 19. 19 would be for the lug nuts themselves, but you need a 10 to 15. Main extension, you'll need a T30 Torx bit. You may need a breaker bar. You will need something to hang your caliper. I got an old clothes hanger there. You need some brake caliper grease, some brake clean, and some rags, paper towels or something. Torque wrench, which you may or may not need depending on where you live, would be some form of hammer. I usually like a rubber mallet because it's not too terribly loud, and a wire brush in case your rotor is rusted on. Same thing for a screwdriver. Okay, also obviously you need your brakes. So I went and I was going to get brakes. I checked out both AutoZone and O'Reilly's, and just for the rotor itself would have been 102 bucks. You know, so multiply that by 2, then get pads for another 50 or something. Go to Rock Auto if you need anything, and they sell this whole thing as a kit minus these. But the Power Stop ceramic brake pads and 2 Power Stop rotors, these are the part numbers, shipped to my house, 120 bucks. They have an economy set that would have been 93 bucks shipped to my house. So go to Rock Auto first before you get anything else. And then I found out after the fact that the caliper mounting bracket bolts are torque to yield. So I went and I picked up these at O'Reilly's. That's the part number there. These are 8 bucks a pop for 2. So I had another 16 bucks of that. So for about 135 bucks, you'll be able to do your own brakes and save yourself about 600 bucks. So I'm going to now jack up the car, pull the tire off. I'm not going to show you that, but then I'm going to set the camera up over here, and I'm going to change out this side in real time so you can see exactly how fast and how easy it is. Okay, just to give you an up close, that Torx head bolt right there is what you need the Torxers for. That's it. Hopefully you won't be an issue where that strips out or snaps off. You may have to drill it out. It's probably going to be an issue that's more dealt with people that live in the north, where you get a lot of salt and rust and stuff, maybe at the beach. The 10 millimeter bolts will be right here on the top and bottom of the caliper itself for the caliper slide pins. You'll have to pop this cable or the brake line out of this bracket here, so you're able to pull the caliper out, pick it up, and hang it up off of the coil, something up here, because you don't ever want to let a brake caliper hang and dangle just from the brake line itself. It can cause it to snap. Right here, there, and down below are the 2 bolts for the brake caliper mounting bracket. Those are actually 18 millimeters stock on the car, so you'll need an 18 millimeter as wrench, 18 millimeter socket as well. And then the replaced ones I have, which hopefully are the same thing and the correct part number, are 15 millimeters. Also, what I didn't mention, which is not necessary but is totally necessary, gloves. It makes cleanup so much easier. All right, let me get you sitting down here. We'll just go right at it. Hopefully you can see there best you can. Try to prop this up a little bit more. Actually, much better. Okay, I'm going to start by taking out this Torx bit. Let's hit that ratchet extension. Dogs are barking. All right. If for whatever reason this bolt breaks or you lose or whatever, it doesn't matter, it's fine. All it does is hold the rotor to the hub tight while you're messing with the brakes. If you lose it, that's no big deal, because the actual wheel itself will hold it on. 10 millimeter pop this brake line out of the way. Slide it up nice and gently. Break loose caliper slide pins. I apologize if I cough at all throughout this. It is springtime and the pollen is killing me. Like absolutely destroying me this year. 10mm caliper bolt. Make sure you have everything where they need to go. You guys still see? Okay. Alright, now if you were just going to change just the brake pads, which anytime you change brakes you might as well just change the rotors, especially if you get the whole kit, but you would just remove the bottom, loosen the top, and you can pivot the whole caliper out of the way. Since we're changing out everything, the caliper needs to be moved and needs to be hung out of the way. So those are loose, caliper slides right off. Then we'll take, you have to finagle this depending on what you're using to hold it up as to how you're going to get it up out of the way. Like I said, I got this old clothes hanger here. Make sure you got hands on it. Alright, it's up out of the way, we should be good to go. So now, you need to take, you pull out your brake pads right here. This where you may need a screwdriver if it doesn't slide right out. Get pretty worn down, time for a change. 115,000 miles on it, so it's not terrible. Screwdriver. Alright, that's out. Take note that the squeal tab goes on the inside of the car on the wheel. Now that's out of the way. Now this is where it could end up being a little bit of a struggle because these 18mm bracket bolts in the back here are torqued down to 74 foot-pounds from the factory. So you may have to cheat and use a breaker bar. Depending. Yep. It's pretty tight in there. I'll grab the breaker. That one's broken loose. This one here. Should be enough for ratchet. Okay, let's compare that. Just double check. Okay. So these new bolts are direct replacement. So these, you should not reuse them. You can if you're in a pinch, but they're torque to yield. So that means anytime you tighten it down and you're torquing it, they stretch. GM has this hard on for using these things for whatever reason. But once you use it one time, you pretty much got to junk it. So don't worry about keeping those. But again, if you don't take off the caliper bracket and you're just changing out the pads, you don't have to worry about it. And as you can see, I will not need the mallet to get my rotor off. I put a lot of Loctite on this thing from the factory. Okay. Caliper mounting bracket out. Areas you will need to grease. We'll pull these pins out, clean them off, grease the pins. These shims, depending on what brake kit you get, I'm assuming you see this, yeah. Depending on what brake kit you get, some may come with the shims, some may not. The kit I have came with the shims, so you can pop these out. You can use a screwdriver for that if you need to. As you can see, the wheel go flying. Safety third. Move that out of the way. Rotor's off, chuck it. Don't need it anymore. Now here, if you live up north, for sure, or somewhere there's a lot of stuff, you'll see you get rust around here. Car coming by, hang on. Take a wire brush, clean this up while you got it off. This is going to be situational dependent. Mine really isn't that bad, but just because I got the brush, clean up a little bit. Okay. Old bolt out. So now, those are out. Let's take a rag here. Wipe off the excess brake dust. Okay. Right here, this it's like a kind of like a suction cup thing, slides over, pull it out, brake pin. See that? It's got grease on it. Grab a new rag. Clean it off. Then take either the brake grease that comes with the kit, or I just have this big thing of CRC brake grease, coat that bad boy up. This is what allows the caliper to slide in and out. Because it's a single piston caliper, it only pushes from one side. So you want to make sure it's free flowing, moves around easily. Slide it back in there, clean up any excess stuff. Slide all the way in, pop the boot back on. Clean it off. Load that up nicely. Slide that back in here. Slide it in, get any excess if you have any excess. Move it out of the way, pop the boot back on, give it a little twist. Give it a little twist, good to go for right now. Set this to the side. Now grab our brake rotor. Brake rotor comes in a bag. It comes in a bag because it's covered in cosmoline to keep it from rusting. You need to clean this off first. If you don't clean it off, you will have terrible braking performance for who knows how ever many miles until it actually burns itself off. So what you want to do is pull this out and get yourself your can of brake clean. Blast it inside and out. Hit the brake clean, wipe it down. Outside's done, or inside's done I should say. Flip around, blast outside. Dry that off. Rub along the edge if you want. You can use a rag, I use paper towels, easier to get rid of. Take it. The rotor's good to go. Now you see this hole right here, that lines up with the bolt that holds it on, that little Torx bolt. Take it, slide your rotor on. You can see as it's rocking like this, that's the only reason that bolt exists. Oh, I bumped you again, oh no. Okay, take it, slide it in. Alright. Just get snug, that's all you got to worry about. You don't want it too tight because you don't want the fuse in case next time you can't get it off and then you got to drill it out, which is a giant pain. Okay, so now that's done. So now we got our caliper bracket. Before we put that back on, we'll take the brake kit, we'll take our new shims, pop 2 of those in there. Slide it in, pop the tabs on, it'll center itself up. It's nice and easy. Centered, centered. Take the caliper bracket, slide it back over the rotor. And the hard part here is getting the bolt holes to line up. I got that one in there. Slide the other one on the bottom. I don't normally wear hats. If you see me wearing a hat, I had a really bad hair day today. So, wear the hat. Okay, so now these new ones are 15 millimeters, so grab my 15 millimeter socket. I'll tighten them up. Make sure you're tight. Snug it. Snug, 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 snug. That top bolt I need to use extension on. Pop in there. Alright, now take your torque wrench. These need to be torqued down too, 74 foot-pounds. I do not go straight for torquing it to the full spec. I'll start at something else. So here I'll start at 40. I'll make sure they both hit at 40. Alright, that's 40 there. Not a lot of room in here. Then I'll twist up to something else, like let's call it 55 or so. Five. Now I'll twist it up to 72. Get the final torque on there. There. No room on this bottle. There we go. Okay. 72. Those are good to go. Run the torque wrench back down. Okay. Now we need our 2 new pads. Remember, we have one that has a squealer tab on it, one that doesn't. Squealer tab goes on the inside. Squealer tab on the inside. So, take the brakes. I'm going to take a little bit of brake grease, put it here on the edge where it slides in the shims. Here. We want to make sure we don't put too much on it so that it would end up getting on the face of the pads and the rotors itself. Then I also too just like to put a little bit here on the back where that rubs into the piston on the caliper itself to keep some noise down. So you just slide this in. Get in there. Get in the tab. It can be tricky sometimes getting the tabs to line up. Screwdriver. Here's the problem with new tabs, though. Or new shims. Come on. Oh. Don't want to edit out the frustration here. Struggle is real, people. There we go. There's a little detent on that shim that was holding me up. Same thing with the outside pad. A little bit of grease on the ears. A little grease on the ears. Do a little bit on the outside. That is in there. So one thing I forgot to tell you at the beginning is we need something to run that piston caliper back. I'm going to use the C-clamp. Let me grab it real quick. You can use several different things to run this back. They make special tools, the calipers themselves, to run the piston back. You can also do it with channel locks. If you do a channel lock, you gotta be careful and make sure you don't screw up the piston sleeve there. Need a good point. Take your an old brake pad here, sit on top, get the clamp out of the way. You just turn it down. Take your time, twist the piston back in. Yes, I did cut myself. I got a boo-boo. Back. once you get the piston always seated, just loosen it up. Take that off. Take that out. Slide the piston or the whole caliper back over the brake pads. Probably have to push the pins back in since we took those out. Take a moment to dry up some blood. Then you take your two 10mm bolts. Line up the caliper. On the pins. I just drop one of the bolts down in there. Stuck in the back of the caliper. Pretty much the hardest part of the job is just getting stuff to line up. Alright. And these get torqued on much lower. I'm going to snug it up first real quick. The 10mm. Okay, so now these only get snugged up to 21 foot-pounds. So, get your torque wrench back out. You can go ahead and set this one straight for 21. Just get it there. Line up. There's 21. All right, 21 foot-pounds. That's it. Pop the brake line back into the bracket there. Then repeat on the other side, and that's all it is to changing your brakes. Now this brake kit recommends that you actually bed in your brakes. Some people say do it, some people say not to do it. Just follow the directions. It's really easy. It's just pretty much driving up to 30 miles an hour, braking back down to 5 miles an hour, and do it several times until they kind of the new pads seat to the rotor and kind of get a little groove action going on. But that's it. So you just put your tire and stuff back on and then repeat on the other side.